My mother is a professor of comparative literature. She's also in the French department and the English department. She's a bit of a workaholic, so she's been in 3 departments. She wrote a lot about surrealist poetry, and then she did a lot of comparisons between art and literature, and the link between writers and painters, and the different ways that you look at art, and the different ways in which you read. She refers a lot to the eye and the text, the physical eye in the text, and how you read the same way that you would look at a painting. My father teaches philosophy, and the effect has been that I think about thinking a lot. So there's a lot of meta questions, but I wasn't a good student.
No, you
and no, not really.
What did you study?
I studied English literature.
Okay.
And creative writing, but creative writing in college is a bit of a cop-out, because it's not something you can really study or need to study, and it's not something upon which you can be graded in a serious way, because if you finish your short story, no one can really give you an F. I mean, you finish the story, it has a beginning and an end, and no one can say it's broken, it doesn't work. Anyway, so I have a bit of self-consciousness about it because I should have been studying more seriously. But yeah, I have serious parents, and yet, even though I sort of do the cheap version, I ask myself some big questions, but I only ever have to answer them for 3 minutes. Compared to what they do, they really put in the work, and I spend most of my time listening to rock and roll records.
No, but doesn't from that attitude, do you feel you have to live up to it?
I guess I did. For a while, I thought I did.
Because that's what also sometimes comes back, what you mean with your lyrics.
Oh.
The potential, like you were saying, but you didn't live up to it. Is it maybe something to do with your parents, eh?
A little bit. No, there's not. I don't have a black sheep feeling.
Okay.
I don't feel like I failed my parents or anything. But the disappointment that I have is really about not just wasting a lot of time. I waste a lot of time. I take a lot of walks. I eat a lot of sandwiches. I watch a lot of bad television. I read a lot of magazines. I just sit around a lot and goof off, and then go into a panic, and then all of a sudden have a record to finish in no time, and then do really serious work for like 2 weeks. I just go fanatically into something, and those are the moments when I wish I did more, because I'm so happy when I'm working.
Yeah.
Very happy. After any solid day's work, I used to work in a magazine, and when I came home, at a record store, even the record store, I get home, I was satisfied. I did work. Yeah. It feels good. And my parents work a lot, and I do think that maybe no, I'm not even going to say I inherited it from them, because you know what I'm talking about, because it's a human thing. Yeah. We enjoy working. We really enjoy leisure, but we especially enjoy having worked. I think Hemingway said that. I don't like writing, but I love having written.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So I waste a lot of time, and of course, every time that I work hard, especially on a record, I feel such satisfaction. Like right now, I feel great. I really like the record. I worked very hard on it at the end. Could we have made 2 or 3 records in this time? Maybe. Of course, maybe not, though. Making them slowly. I'm contradicting myself all over the place to say that making them slowly is important, too, because I have to live with the songs for a long time before thinking it's okay to put them out, because the way in which I do want to live up to my parents is that I would never want a song to come out where the lyrics, if I thought they were bad, I think I would find that very tough.
Do they listen to your music?
They do now. My father doesn't so much yet. My mom has become a rock and roll fan.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, they listened only to Baroque music. And not just classical, but not all kinds of classical. It was like really Bach, Mozart, stop.
Yeah.
I mean, there were other records, but there's certain certain Bach pieces that just ran all the time in my house. And the moment that my parents, I think, were proud of me was when I had health insurance from the group. Because that's serious, you know. Because as long as you don't have health insurance, I don't know what it's... Do you have national health here?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because we don't. So if you don't have health insurance, you're really putting your parents at great risk. Because if you break a bone, they're in for the whole cost, you know. Okay. I don't actually have health insurance right now, but as soon as I was able to have it from the record company or whatever, I think they like that. I don't know. I'm glad I had parents who work hard, because maybe I'll work harder one day when I grow up.
You still have enough time. No, because the next question is, what was it like spending those sabbatical years in France?
Oh, it was great. It was really great.
Where did you stay?
In Paris. We lived there when I was 5, and they put me in the local school, and I didn't understand a word, of course. And 2 weeks into it, we were looking at a book, and there was a cat, and the cat was purring. And the word in French for purring is ronron. And ronron kind of sounds like, you know, it sounds like a purr. And then I got it. I was like, oh, that's the French word for purring. This is another language. Oh, okay. I mean, of course, I wasn't thinking like that, but I remember something clicked. And then I became a little French kid.
And how often did you stay there for years?
Every summer. Every summer. The good thing about having parents who teach is that you get very long summers. We had 3-month summers. And in '72, my parents bought a house in the south of France for $5,000.
Where?
In Provence.
Provence.
Near Avignon.
Avignon, okay.
Yeah, near Carpentras, sur le pont d'Avignon. And anyways, so incredibly cheap, right? With one light bulb, no running water, not big enough for my sister and I to live in, so we lived in tents. And the house itself was one room on top of another room with no stairs, built into a hill. So you walk around the hill, you're upstairs, you walk back around the hill, you're downstairs. It was built by 2 brothers who didn't get along, but who wanted to live together to save money. So we went there for 10 summers, and the whole time built another room for my sister and I to stay in. But because of the local zoning laws, when you build a room, it has to be with a tiled roof and, you know, 3 beams, you know, the whole classic thing. So ironically, of course, the summer we finished building the house, my sister and I never came back, because then we were teenagers.
But do they still have that house?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's wild. It's completely overgrown. It's like a little lost, not a dollhouse, but it's out of a fairy tale. It's very nice. It's not a manicured lawn. It's not fancy. It's totally wild. But you don't even know it's there. But the side of the road, there's a stone, and you reach into the tree, and there's a switch, and then the lights go on.
Yeah?
You know, of the whole, lighting the whole path to the house.
Nice.
It's very beautiful.
And I was thinking, because you, do you think that your, French connection has something to do? Is a explanation for your success in France? Do you think? Or
Yeah, it's a lot of factors.
could be. Or
Yeah, it's part of it. I mean, part of it is.
Do they know?
Yeah,
Okay.
they know. And the thing that we're really lucky about is that when we play shows in France, when we play concerts, we can just talk.
Yeah, because the other members. Also
Yeah, not the drummer Ira, but Daniel, the bass player. He's Spanish, but he lived in Brussels when he was little, and then he went to the same French school in New York that I went to. And in concerts, we can just talk to the audience, and I think they really appreciate that, and it gives us it feels like a little magic trick, you know. And then when we get back on the bus and go into Germany or something, we're like, oh, there goes that trick. Damn it. Yeah. But that, and also just the fact that it did well, and our first record did really well in France before the fact that we spoke. I don't know, I think they hooked up with the right radio station at the right time, and there was this station called Fun that was like the kids station, you know, for the 10 to 13-year-olds, and they used Popular as their TV commercial a lot, so it was running all the time on TV.
Oh, 'cause that's why.
Yeah, so that helped, and Yeah, I think it's a little coincidence, but definitely helped by the fact that we speak it.
And
sure.
What is for you? How would you compare this album to the previous one? Let go.
I think they really go together. I feel like our first two records and these two are separate eras. You know, it feels like we were always trying to ignore the outside world and just please ourselves. And I think we kind of did that, but now we're really doing it. On these two, it feels like we're not really worried about what we're supposed to sound like, or.
But can it be it's because of Elektra not bringing out the second record in the States? That is some kind of breaking point for you then, because you were saying the first two albums are more of a they go together, and these two. Yeah,
I think they do. You know, and in a way, going through all these very typical, cliched record company troubles was a good thing, because it's like collecting experience, you know. In just a few years, we'd had easy success, like really fast. Before that, we had 10 years of playing in bands constantly and never getting anywhere, so there was this sort of paying your dues part that we did. Then the easy success, and then it all fell apart. And when we made Let Go, it felt very much like a first album, because there was no company waiting for it, certainly, and no one was giving us any money, and we didn't have the feeling that anyone had really heard the Proximity Effect, because, you know, we had some critical trouble, too, is the thing, because the first album doing so well so fast made us look pretty bad, because critically, people couldn't have us as their baby band. We couldn't be anyone's secret favorite band.
I know what you mean, yeah.
We just appeared on TV all of a sudden out of nowhere. Who are these guys? You know, I also would react suspiciously, because I'm a huge fan. I'm a bigger fan than I am a musician by far. And my favorite thing, of course, is to hear about a band from a friend, and, you know, and I don't know anything about them, and I just hear the record, and then I want to learn, you know, and I don't even know what they look like, or, you know, okay, that's a bit extreme.
No,
there are photos everywhere, but you know what I mean. Your little discovery.
Yeah. It's your own secret band, then.
Yeah. And with the third one, you know, we were kind of starting over, and I think that's a lucky, kind of humbling experience, and very freeing, you know, because if our second single had done well, and then the third, and then the fourth, then by the time we'd made our third record, we would have really had the weight of expectation and of business. You know, there have been a lot of people just expecting us to keep churning it out. A lot of this is rationalization, because what happens, and the kind of records we make are the kind of records we make, and
now, when you look back, you can tell more about it than when you're actually
absolutely
in the period, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this record, I think there's a certain urgency in it, because we all had some pretty eventful years the last couple of years, and we really needed the escape that working on a record gives you. You know, it's an amazing, self-help. It's great therapy, and it's fantasy too. You're disappearing into a world, you know, where you're trying to make every song be its own little planet, you know, with its own sound, and the process is so enjoyable, and I think that gives most of the songs these two sides, because usually the source material, like the song subject, is usually some kind of issue or problem that I or whoever writes. You know, Daniel has written songs in the past, and will write more on the next record. You know, it's dealing with an issue, and trying to get over it, or trying to admit something about yourself, or trying to solve a problem. And that's very often from a sad place. We have a friend, Sean Nelson, who's in a group called Harvey Danger, and they have a new record, and there's a lyric that says, "Happiness writes white," meaning that happiness writes white on the page. You can't even see it. You can't write about it. You know, and this is very typical. I know a lot of people say this, but there's truth to it. But the thing is that no matter how maybe sad a song's subject might be, the process, even at the very beginning, of putting a few chords together is great. And the process of building a melody, of looking for a melody that's catchy, is great, because as soon as you've got it, as soon as you've got something catchy, it's this incredibly good feeling. You just want to do it again and again and again. You want to put it on your little tape recorder and listen to it again and again and again and be like, this melody's fun, you know?
Because, and also, like you say with the lyrics, because you are creating something out of a bad experience.
Yeah.
So it's good then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. If alchemy wasn't such a strong word, I would use that word. But alchemy refers to, you know, making gold out of nothing, or whatever it is. I know there's a whole history of alchemy. I know nothing about it. I shouldn't even use the word. But yeah, it's a thoroughly positive experience. Absolutely great. And I love the studio. I love practicing. We love concerts. You know, so the whole thing, top to bottom, is positive, even though the impetus for writing the song might have been a hard time.
Yeah, like you're saying, might have been.
Right.
Because then now it's in the song.
And it fixes it.
Yeah.
It's great. It makes it portable. It gives it a handle, and you can pull it out and you put it over there, and it rhymes, and it's 3 minutes long, and it rocks. You know, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I think we're lucky to do what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think last question. I was wondering, do you still remember, because I have to ask the question, do you still remember when you wrote Popular?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was listening a lot to Sonic Youth at the time, and totally fascinated by the dissonance in their chords. Not just the dissonance, but the way they would repeat a lot of notes. You know, they'd have a guitar with all E strings, you know, all tuned to one note. So there'd be a lot of this natural chorusing. And I was just playing with this one chord at the beginning of the song. Dum, dum, blah, dum, dum, dum. You know, it's got two notes that are the same, that kind of bend against each other. And I put this on my 4-track and built a few chords around it. And it was just sitting there. And then I went out to get a sandwich, one of many, and went to the Salvation Army, where I used to waste some time looking through records or looking at T-shirts or whatever. And there was this book called Penny's Guide to Teenage Charm and Popularity, which had a great title. It cost 25 cents, and it had a stamp on the inside that said Glamour Beauty Department or Glamour Editorial Department from the 60s, and Glamour being Glamour magazine. Mm-hmm. And this book was about how to be a popular teenager. It was absolutely fascinating and kind of sick, you know. And it said that there are 3 important rules for breaking up. Tell them honestly, simply, kindly, but firmly. A lot of it is lifted right out of it. So I had the idea that I could read some text out of this book for the verses, and the chorus I would write from the point of view of someone who totally bought into this. I'm a party star, I've got my own car, got a cheerleading chick, my mom says I'm a catch, you know, these absolutely ridiculous phrases, you know, trying to inhabit the mind of someone who saw things so purely, and I'm not saying it's good pure, you know, but purely as this game, but not such a healthy one, you know, where you're simply trying to be as popular as you can. And so what we did at some shows, once we all learned the song, was have friends get up from the audience, particular friends who happened to be very extroverted. You know, we'd say, you know, in the next song, jump up on stage, and I'd give them the book, and I'd bent over the ends of the pages that had really great, ridiculous text in them, like keep your hair spotlessly clean. The book says wash once a week. I just thought watch every 2 weeks was funnier. And so these friends of ours would read out of the book, and when it was time for the chorus, I'd nudge them out of the way and sing the chorus. And to record the song, I tried to read, but it was stiff. So I couldn't get it to flow right, so I put the book down, and just made it up. But in fact, in making it up, I ended up quoting a lot of it because I knew a lot of it by heart already. And then I had a friend of mine, a woman, Catherine, read out of the book also. And I wanted a male voice and a female voice, both kind of buried like a Velvet Underground track, you know, where you just hear this talking under the music where you can't really understand what they're saying. And this guy, Bryce Goggin, who made some really good Pavement records and some great Chavez records, he's a really good engineer, was helping us make this demo. It wasn't really a demo. We did some recording where we didn't know what we were doing it for. You know, I had a job I didn't like at the time. I was a temp at an investment bank, and I worked every night from 1 in the morning to 9 in the morning. The money was good, but I was always tired. And I couldn't even save that much money because I was taking taxis everywhere. I was so tired, you know. And I would never cook, you know. I was just eating out all the time. And anyway, so we're just recording with him, and he's mixing that song. And I said, you know, he's like, so what's going on? I got you here, she's here, what do I do? I said, oh yeah, bury them both, left and right, you know, just make it kind of murky. And he did that, and he's like, let me listen. And he turns hers off, turns mine all the way up, right in the middle, listens for a while, and says, that's a pop single. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. He's like, that is a single. Check this out. And shoves the voice up. And it was. So that's...
So you didn't think of it at first?
At all. No. It was like a, you know, it was... I hope it wasn't pretentious, but it was like an art piece. It was an art song, you know, performance art on stage and a arty rock song on tape. Not at all a single, but he figured it out.
And how do you look back now on the success of it?
Well, you know, it becomes cooler and cooler the further away we get. Because a year after that experience, all we had was, our history was very short. We had this really zippy summer, you know, where we were all over TV and a lot of shows and big festivals. And then the record company puts out the wrong second single. You know, we disagree, and the record stops selling, and it all goes downhill. But now, we're on our 4th record. The 3rd one did great. We're really happy. We're on all these independent labels everywhere that are really good. Our live audience is bigger than it's ever been, and it's great. Now we're in a really good place. Plus, we had this little pop single a long time ago. So now it's like this little bonus, you know, whereas before it was kind of a defining troublesome thing. But now it's good. And now also it might make the difference sometimes where if someone is reading a list of reviews and let's say they heard the name from 10 years ago, maybe they'll stop and read that review. You know, it's kind of valuable to have a name that someone's heard of, even if they don't know why they've heard of it. So now it's good. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Right on. Good.